Lamar Jackson is no stranger to compliments. He's no stranger to compliments coming from
Or
the greats
criticisms.
and criticisms depending on where you're at. But he's no stranger to compliments from NFL Hall of Famer Peyton Manning either. And Sarah, he recently sat down, Peyton did, with Chris Collingsworth from NBC, Sunday Night Football in America, former NFL player himself. And they were having a conversation just about the way the game has changed, specifically with the quarterback position. And Peyton, right before this clip, talked about something that an interviewee, or I should say an interviewer, asked him years ago. And it was essentially, what was the best throwaway of your career? And it puzzled Peyton because he's like, throwaway? Not realizing in the moment that throwaways can mean a lot, just in terms of the game within the game. And somehow that took him down the road of adaptation and the way that the game has adapted, not just generally speaking, but adapted to the players that have taken it over, like a Lamar Jackson. And that brings me to these comments, which are short and sweet from Peyton Manning on Lamar Jackson.
Couldn't move like Lamar could, but you can still make quick decisions. And I think Lamar has adapted his game where he still is a pocket quarterback first.
He is.
Now, nobody's open. I can be Lamar. So I think there's a place for both. I think that's the best part about the NFL, that we can adapt to different players and their strengths.
Again, the NFL has adapted, sure, taken some time. Some haven't, as we know. We pretty much cover that on what feels like a weekly basis when it comes to the Lamar Jackson sphere. But this is a guy was essentially the carbon copy of a prototypical in-pocket quarterback that has watched the game transform since he retired. And it was happening while he was still playing. But since, the road has been paved. And now players like, prior to Lamar, we know who paved his road, but now Lamar is helping pave it to great lengths, more so than maybe any other quarterback has. And that's all due respect to the Randall Cunninghams, the Mike Vicks, the Steve Youngs. We could go on and on and on. But to hear somebody, Sarah, with not only the respect that Peyton Manning commands and deserves and has earned for his Hall of Fame career speak like that, but knowing what his career consisted of stylistically, I always think that's cool. That's why it's so cool to hear from Tom. It's cool in a different sense to hear from Steve, the way you and I have had the privilege to, thanks to your relationship with him from a firsthand experience, being that there's some similarities between their game. But it's always even cooler, I think, when the opposite side, when those that weren't gifted with what Lamar's been gifted physically can not only see it, but know that it's taken a lot to get to where Lamar has. I always find that fascinating.
Well, and kind of to take that and take it another step forward, not only has Lamar Jackson helped evolve this game, but his own game has evolved quite a bit, as Peyton kind of alluded to there. And yesterday, Bobby, I'd put up this quote from PFF, Dalton Wasserman, one of the guys over there at PFF. And they've been doing this preview of the Ravens. You saw part of it when I brought up them talking about the greatest weakness being the edge rushers, in their opinion, and the off the top of the show. And so I want to read again what he said, and I've got a bigger clip because this is important. This is important. The change in the evolution we've seen not only Lamar make on the game, but in his own game. Dalton said, Lamar's development as a drop back passer under offensive coordinator Todd Monken has left him with, this is a quote, virtually no flaws. As a drop back passer.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we talked about how he's probably or is the most talented quarterback in the NFL right now. Let's listen a little bit more about Dalton and PFF talk about Lamar heading into this 2025 season.
solid quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, two-time MVP Lamar Jackson. What makes him so special, Dalton?
I mean, at this point, everything. What we've seen in his development as a passer over the last 2 years with Todd Monken as his offensive coordinator, the ability to win now in the drop-back game, because he used to be very play-action dependent, right? And he was figuring everything out. He wasn't the most polished passer coming out of Louisville. Now, you look at Lamar Jackson, and there's really no weakness in his game. The only thing people are going to point to is, well, he hasn't gotten to a Super Bowl. He hasn't won a ring yet. But that really, look, even in the playoff game against Buffalo, wasn't great in the first half, but he drove his team down to tie the game and made the throw to tie the game, and Mark Andrews dropped it. So you look at Lamar Jackson all the way around, one of the most dynamic runners we've ever seen. Now he's become an elite passer, the first quarterback in PFF history to have a 90 passing grade and a 90 rushing grade in the same season last year. So certainly, obviously, Josh Allen won the MVP, but Lamar had a great argument, and you just see his development as a passer, and John Harbaugh's even said this recently. He believes he's one of the all-time great passers now, and it feels like over the last couple of years, he's become that. If he continues the dual threat momentum that he's got, the Ravens should be one of the inner circle contenders to win a Super Bowl, but it's just everything. Best big-time throw rate of his career, best turnover-worthy play rate of his career. He continues to get into his prime and get better and better, even though he's already a two-time MVP. It's just unbelievable, his development with his arm and then what he still brings with his feet to the ground game.
Okay, Bobby, so check this out. Virtually flawless. Maybe we'll make this a little bit bigger for to see these charts here. Check these. They've got stable metrics and then unstable metrics. How about his clean pocket grade? He's in the 98th percentile. 98th. Standard drop back grade, 90th percentile. First and second down grade, 98th percentile. No play action grade, 92nd percentile. At or beyond the sticks grade, 96th percentile. Avoids negatives, 52nd percentile. It's like his lowest one. Sack rate, 56th percentile. Okay, here we go to some unstable metrics. Under pressure grade, 85th percentile. Outside the pocket grade, 95th percentile. How about on third and fourth down? 57th percentile. Play action grade, 98th percentile. Positively graded throws, 96th percentile. Not perfect, but getting close to what he's saying is virtually flawless. Now,
3-year sample size.
3-year sample size. Thank you for pointing that out. That's 20.
Meaning
not
the
just
end
last
of Greg
year.
Roman. The end of Greg Roman and 2 years under Todd.
Correct. Now, I wanted to go a little bit deeper because he attributed, as you can see, his development as a drop back passer under Todd Monken. Okay, so I went back and I looked up some stats that, well, first of all, I've used this before in the playoffs. So here's playoff stats of Lamar Jackson, because obviously there's the playoff narrative about Lamar, as you and I have discussed. His playoff play has gotten better. He's had 4 playoff games with Greg Roman. He's had 4 playoff games. 4 playoff games with Todd Monken. He was 1-3 with Greg Roman, 2-2 against Todd Monken. His pass rate was 68.3 with Greg Roman in those playoff games. Massive improvement to 105.8 with Todd Monken. How about the completion percentage? It goes up by almost 11 from 55 to 66. The pass yards in terms of volume goes down a little bit, 900 to 853. Touchdowns goes up 3 to 7. Interceptions goes down 5 to 2. Okay, that's the playoffs. We've talked about that before. This is why, and PFF did a good job of saying his growth continues every single year. Here it is with just the regular season. So what I did here, Bobby, is I'm looking at stats under Roman, which is 2019 to 2022, versus Monken, which is 23 to 24. Obviously, in the Roman, there's more seasons, and he's got a couple of seasons where he finishes injured. So what I did is I went to Pro Football Reference, and I plucked their for the volume stats. I got it per 17 games so that we're having an apples to apples comparison. It's not even a season to season because some of those seasons he was injured under Greg Roman. So this is per 17 games for the volume stats you see here. So per 17 games, the pass attempts have gone up. Not a ton, but they've gone up. The completion percentage has gone up from 64.4 under Roman to 66.9 under Monken. How about the yards per 17 games? Way up by almost 600, Bobby. 3,400 to over 4,000. Touchdowns up by 4, 29.9 to 33.5. Interceptions down, almost cut in half, 11 to 5.7. How about yards per attempt? It goes up by a full yard, 7.4 to 8.4. Yards, passing yards per game goes up by over 30. The QB rate from 98.1 to 111.3. And then the sacks go down to 36.5 to 30.9. Now, the stats below I have here are rushing. And it makes perfect sense that the rushing has gone down as the passing goes up. But it's not just the volume that I'm talking about. It's the how well he does it, the quality of it. And so there's no doubt there's a big difference in Lamar Jackson as a drop back passer. As Dalton is saying here, it's not just little differences, it's big differences, especially if you look at it in the playoffs. His evolution continues. And that is why when you hear him at the podium a couple weeks ago where he's like, hey, I'm only 28, I'm just getting started, the numbers bear that out, that this MVP from his sophomore season in the NFL continues to get better and better.
Oh, well said. It's a great breakdown. Obviously, with a sophisticated passing attack, that comes this type of opportunity to showcase himself the way that he knew he could during his days at Louisville, running a pro-style offense with Bobby Petrino. Obviously, Sarah, as we've talked about in the past, personnel helps that as well. And the fact that coincided, really a personnel upgrade, if you will, when it comes to pass catchers with the arrival of Todd Monken certainly helps. Just context on top of the numbers that we saw. And we know as well, 21 and 22 down the stretch under Greg Roman were injury riddled. At the time, folks thought that it was the demise of Lamar, and ended up several years later really just being, I guess you can call it an aberration or a fluke, one or the other, maybe a little bit of both. But clearly, Sarah, it needed to happen. It needed to happen, and Todd Monken has just been the guy for the job.
Yeah, and just to respond to a sarcastic comment in the chat, I did not leave off the fumbles. It was there, bright. There it is in yellow, fumbles. His fumbles have gone up, 9.4 under Roman to 10.8 under Monken. It's less than one fumble per game that it's gone up, but for sure a part of Lamar's game that needs to, that he wants to continue to grow at.
Evan trying to be slick. He's got to be a little bit quicker than that. Come on now.
It's like right there.
I want to follow up. I think it's the perfect segue here, just as we're talking about Lamar, and a super chat from yesterday essentially asked us, hey, when the heck does Lamar ever lose not close games? It's very seldom, Sarah. And here it is. Here is exactly the game years ago with Lamar as their starting quarterback. The last time the Ravens lost a game by 2 scores or more. You got to go back to week 10 of 2021, prior to him going down with a season-ending injury. They were playing the Miami Dolphins. They lost 22-10. I don't need to remind anybody what that game consisted of, what night that game was played on, but it's pretty freaking remarkable when you think about it, Sarah, and maybe one of the greatest testaments that's underrated about Lamar. Seemingly, the Ravens are never not in games that they lose. They're almost always in the game, and that might just be one of the greatest attributes that he brings.
Absolutely. And as we've talked with Warren Sharp, the next step is just to bring up the close one-score games. With Lamar, they're slightly above 500. Without Lamar, they're slightly below 500 when it comes to one-score games. And so, but the vast majority of them are, to your point, is the Ravens beating people by 2 scores or more. Like that's the Lamar Jackson effect.
Yep.
Another Lamar Jackson effect, if I can back up here, is the fact, and we've mentioned this before, Mina Kimes has mentioned this before, and now PFF is picking up on it. Again, it's Dalton Wasserman. He's on track. He said 30 years old last year, and you could argue Derrick Henry had his best season. He's showing no signs of slowing down. And it's just, I love this write-up from him. Henry roared into his 30s with the best season of his NFL career in 2024. He led the league with a 93.5 rushing grade and 89 missed tackles forced. 89 missed tackles. Get off of me. While averaging a career high 6.0 yards per carry. His symbiotic. It's so perfect. Symbiotic relationship with Lamar Jackson, the run game, powered Baltimore's offense, and the Ravens win a perfect 11-0 in games where Henry topped 90 rushing yards. What did Mina say, Bobby? That for sure that he had his best career season with Lamar in his 30s, and she said Lamar Jackson is the sun that creates the gravity that forces everybody to rotate around him. That's what he does. Even a future Hall of Famer like Derrick Henry, his game is raised because of Lamar. And to be fair, I think Lamar's game is raised with Derrick Henry there too. Symbiotic relationship is perfect.
The lightning to Derrick Henry's thunder. The same could be said for Keaton Mitchell. The same could be said for Lamar in a sense. And crazy to believe that the guy who had to wait 31 selections, really 32. I guess he had to wait 31 selections on that April night in 2018 is all of a sudden getting ready for year number 8. And that is exactly what the NFL was acknowledging. There he is in his purple-white thread, Sarah. We won't see him at all for the next few weeks. But 1 month from tonight, it's the Ravens and Bills. It's a rematch of the divisional round from last January. And it all goes down in Buffalo.